Hey, welcome to Felcraftcast. I'm Hammy, hope you're well and good, and today we're going to be taking a look at Bloodlips Tempo Mage. We're going to be looking through the deck, and then we're going to be jumping into 2 or 3 games to show how it works. So without further ado, let's jump on in and have a little bit of a look at Tempo Mage. Firstly, if you're new to Hearthstone, the concept of tempo, very long story short, in a slightly simplistic way, it's keeping the swing, the balance of the game in your favour. I think that's the best thing. So if something breaks tempo, then it means that you lose the control of the game, you lose the balance of the game, or if someone takes tempo from you, they suddenly put themselves on the front foot. Think of it as being on the front foot or on the back foot. So how does a tempo deck work? A tempo deck always sort of aims to, as it sounds like, keep the tempo in your favour. How does it do that? You generally do that by making good trades, by making sure that you keep the table under control, your minions are under control, your game plan is working. A simple example of tempo is that you've got something you can play every single turn, a good play that you can make every single turn. Let's say if I had nothing I could play card-wise for 3 mana on turn 3, then that would break my tempo. I'm not doing the most I can, I'm not doing the most I can every single turn that I'm playing. So how does Tempo Mage jump on into that? Well, very, very simply, it works like this. If you take a look at this mana curve, we've got a lot in the early to mid game. We do not have so much in the late game, but we need to make sure that we get control of the game in the early game, which is why we have these combos of cards. So I'll actually pull up the right Tempo Mage, that'd be a good start. Mana Wyrm, great for early game trades, seen in other decks, but you can jump on in any spells that you throw after that, of course, going to buff it with attack, so that's good for early game trading. Against any aggro, you want to mulligan, ideally you want to Mana Wyrm, keep it against aggro, so you can throw spells around, buff it up, and trade away early game cards. So these are the tools in the early game where you get control and where you can steal tempo from your opponent. If you're playing aggro, you're probably trying to get tempo back. If you're playing control or anything mid-range, you're wanting to seize tempo as early as possible. If it's a rush, you're trying to make sure against an aggro deck that you stop that rush. These are the tools that you can use to do so. Unstable Portal, generally speaking, it will let you play more for less earlier in the game. You sometimes will get unlucky and of course get a random really cheap minion that doesn't benefit you at all. Worst comes to worst, you're playing 2 mana for a minion of some description. When it comes to its best, I've picked out Deathwing, I've picked out Nosdurmu, all kinds of crazy cards with Unstable Portal. So a lot of people, some people don't like the randomness of it, but Unstable Portal can swing the game and swing tempo for you on its own if you pick something strong. If you pick a tank, you pick a big late game card that costs 3 mana less that you can play on turn 5 or 6. Strong. For that reason it comes in. Mad Scientist, everyone's favourite secret fetcher. You throw it down. You can sacrifice it yourself to pull the secret in, or if your opponent attacks it, you put a secret in from your deck, and we'll talk about the secrets in this deck in a bit. Just the one Sorcerer's Apprentice could be swapped out, just means that you can reach out and play on turn 3 any of these spells, or perhaps even that are the 2 mana spells. You can pick those out and play them a turn earlier if you need. Sorcerer's Apprentice plus Frostbolt plus Unstable Portal, a very strong turn 3 play, and of course turn 2 if you have a coin. Arcane Intellect for the card draw to keep yourself moving. Card draw in card games is always good. 2 counterspell. Now we're playing tempo. A good way of getting tempo is making sure that you deny your opponent's spell casting and all kinds of spells. A Druid's Innovate getting solidly interrupted. Anything that, you know, at the very, very least, you're wasting your opponent's mana. At the best, if it's a strong spell or a very expensive spell, then you're going to be giving them a bunch of trouble when comes to denying them whatever they were trying to do. So it's a good way of balancing tempo or getting tempo back in your favour. Double Mirror Entity. With Mad Scientist you can fetch these in. Mirror Entity, opponents very often suspect Mirror Entity as a mage secret in the current metagame, and they try play around it. So they're always going to try and play little minions, the lowest possible minion, and that can give you tempo in itself. If your opponent delays playing big minions because they don't want you to have a copy of them with Mirror Entity, again, it brings tempo to you. 2 Kieran Tor Mage. On turn 2, if you have a coin and you're playing second, you can Kieran Tor Mage into a secret. So a 4/3 minion with a secret on the table for on turn 2. If you're going second, a very powerful play. But equally speaking, Kieran Tor Mage as well as Mad Scientist gives you a way of getting those secrets into play for free and less. So another example of tempo in a way, making the most of the mana situation that you're in at that time, getting more for less in effect. Fireballs, control or damage, nuking such Belchers out the way seems to be a very common use for Fireball. Polymorph for controlling big stuff, you've only got the one, use it wisely. Kazan Mystic, very popular in the current metagame for stealing secrets and taking tempo. Lots of mages. If you steal a secret off a mage, steal a secret off a hunter, and also a paladin, then you are giving yourself some kind of tempo advantage. Your opponents probably had to pay mana to play that secret, and as a result, by taking it off them, you are wasting that mana and also giving yourself a beneficial effect. To Shredders, the 2-for-1 genius from Goblins vs. Gnomes, you get that free 2-cost minion when it dies unless it's silenced, so good for making good trades. Azure Drake, spell damage, body on the table, draw a card. Brilliant example of grabbing some tempo. Lotheb slows your opponent, interrupts their tempo, of course, enemy spells costing 5 more, and with the 5 attack and 5 health, solid minion on the table as well. 2 Belchers, these slow down your opponent's various rushes, kind of attacks. They're a big chunky tank, summoning with that death rattle. I forgot what a Belcher was for a second there. Summoning the second 2-1 tank, 2-1 Sludge with Taunt, means that they're going to have to either silence or throw minions at them to burst through them. So you can see the theme of all of these cards. You're trying to get yourself ahead, keep your opponent under control, or really slow them down. You can see those 3 sort of different pieces of tempo. Is it pushing me more quickly to where I want to be? Is it denying my opponent the opportunity to do things, or is it really just putting my opponent back? Is it slowing them down from achieving their goal? Flame Strike, 4 damage to all enemy minions, just getting everything off the table. And Dr. Boom and Ragnaros, Boom, kind of tempo in that you have the 2 Boom bots. Boom is causing Big Game Hunter, which kills any minion with 7 attack or above, to be so prevalent at the moment. A lot of people are actually switching and trying to use different cards, so cards underneath that 7 attack threshold, generally 6 attacks, things like Trogs or the Earth Noter could be a swap in here as well. And finally Ragnaros, again another boom target but a good finisher. So this Tempo Mage we've taken a quick look through. I'm just going to pull the deck list up in our right column. And what we're going to do now is play a few games to see how this deck works in a bit of a real life example. Now, we normally jump in on ladder and give it a few goes on ladder. At the moment I'm in a bit of a middle of a ladder push, so I don't want to interrupt my win streak. I'm sorry folks for this one, but we will certainly give it a go on ladder another time and make some bids of it. Okay, so Tempo Mage BL, we're going to jump in and have a quick look at a couple of games. We're going to go into casual mode. Remember, we might be playing brand new players, or we might be playing experienced people who are trying to test out some decks. So without further ado, let's jump in and see how we go. So remember our goals, and let's have a little think about mulligan strategy. Well, we want to get ourselves ahead, if at all possible, as early as possible. If we're playing against aggro decks, we need to stabilise the table as quick as we can. So what we're going to do with that... Okay, a priest. So priests generally tend to be controlling. We will of course only see when we start playing how strong our opponent is and what kind of deck they're playing. So broad mulligans. I like having secrets out. I don't mind a mana worm, but I have no spells. However, if you look at my early game, I've got nothing but. So in terms of having a mana curve, I'm going to keep the 2 lone ones, draw onto a Sorcerer's Apprentice. That's absolutely fine. That means I've got a turn 1, turn 2, and if I draw a spell then that's a 2 mana cost, then I have a turn 3 play too. So I've got something I can drop every turn. That in itself is a nice basic starting point. So this deck has hit top 1 EU apparently, top 1 of Legend, which is pretty awesome. What you do have to remember a little bit, of course, is that the metagame in Legend can be very different to the metagame at various points in the ladder, and indeed in Hearthstone this is something you always have to remember whenever you net deck list, or take a look at decks that people are saying, oh, this made Legend, or oh, this has got to top 10 Legend or top 100 Legend. You'll even find as you go from rank 25 through to the higher bits of the ladder, even let's say in bunches of ranks of 5, from 25 to 20, from 20 to 15, 15 to 10, you can even see little changes in the meta as you climb or drop down the ladder. For example, in the lower ends you'll have, understandably, a lot more variety in decks. You might have a lot more rush decks, for example. You may have times when a popular streamer decides to play a control deck or play a new deck, and suddenly everyone wants to try that deck, and the ladder is full of that deck absolutely everywhere. Smites also is going to drop in a trigger to that World Pyromancer, so opponent getting table under control quite nicely. I could Fireball here, but there's not really huge amounts I can do. What I can do is get my secrets out as soon as possible. That doesn't feel too bad. I'm going to see what secret I get. And we draw into a mirror entity. Hey, that's absolutely great. So I have no secrets that I want to be playing here. I'm going to throw that down, draw a couple of cards, because I actually draw into a nice turn 4 drop, so the Shredder. So you can see so far the table is clear. We've managed to get a secret down. Thought Steal, ooh, that can be awkward. Priests will always... oh, lots of thank yous. I don't know if we're being bad-mannered there, but we'll thank our opponent as well. Okay, right, Fireball, there's nothing for us to Fireball. Piloted Shredder, we've got our mirror entity down. We're feeling quite set. We have tempo, I would say, broadly speaking, in our favour right now. Although Priests, of course, with Thought Steal can take all of your nasty tricks you have and use them against you, so we now have to be prepared for any deck card that we have to pop out and cause us trouble. Never good fun at all. Let's see what our Priest has. All we've seen so far is a Wild Pyromancer, so we don't really have any clues as to what our Priest friend is playing so far. Do of course have to remember down goes... oh. Okay, so we've got that. That's not hugely going to help. Kieran Tempo Mage, again, that's not hugely going to help my opponent. So far we are in good shape, I think. Okie dokie, let's see here what we can think of doing. Now we can just go for solid overall control. Remember, that is our style that we're going for. We want to have tempo. Now my opponent can sacrifice and draw a card after this, but if anything is healed, then I will also draw a card because I've got a minion as well. So Fireball, I could Fireball this off the table. I could just go for the Drake and get even more tempo. Decisions, decisions, decisions. I'm going to go for the Drake. I can take that. Ah, see, this is where we can do some secrets. Oh, and we actually even drew into a little Sorcerer's Apprentice there. So that's cool. We've got some nice trades there. We've got the table under control at this point. Nice 3 mana Fireball rather than 4. That would be pretty good. Okay, so we're going to be jumping into turn 6. Now you can see we're a little bit congested here because we could really do with some secrets. If so, then the Kieran Tempo Mages would really come into their own. And of course we have a lot of nasty secrets in there, more mirror entities, some counter spells would be great against Priest. And the longer we keep running, it's good that we have 4 attack minions because they sit firmly in between Shadowed Pain, which a Priest uses as removal, and Shadowed Death. So Shadowed Pain, 3 attack or less, remove that minion. Shadowed Death, 5 attack or more. So 4, a very sweet spot when it comes to playing against Priests. Okie dokie, right, we have our nukes. Now what could we do? We could cause our spells to cost another one less. 2 damage, 2 Fireball for 7. That's ridiculous, but what we're going to use that for is actually getting rid of that off the table. I think we can... let's pick this off. Okay, so a Holy Nova could cause us some undue hurt and pain here, but we have table control, so I would say broadly speaking tempo is with us still. That could change very quickly. Down goes a Pyromancer. We're going to see some spells. There's the Powered Shield, that immediately gets rid of this, 1 damage to everything. Another spell will remove the other 2 minions. Okay, and we see the Pyromancer being used to beautiful effect, nuking everything off the table. Still no secrets, which is a bit annoying. Flame Strike is a bit of a waste at this point. I could Kieran Tempo and offer the trade. Instead I think I'm going to Belcher and effectively say, let's make that trade. So opponent on 7 mana, we're feeling reasonably decent at this point in time. Shadowed Pain, what are we talking about? Of course that's going to be 1 damage because it's another spell being cast after the Pyromancer. 1 more spell cast. And Pyromancer's doing a good job, just going to knock away that Sludge Belcher, easily dealt with. Remember, as soon as we get to like 10 or so in terms of mana, we need to be careful of mind control, because of course we've got a lot of big minions that we can be using. Lothar will certainly help us here. A Flame Strike could finish a lot of our problems. So here, I'm just going to Flame Strike, get the table under control. What we could really do with drawing into is some counter spells now. The reason for that is because in the late game, Holy Fire, so deal 5 damage, restore 5, Circle of Healing could well come out with the Organised Soul Priest that just hit the table. We are not out of the woods yet, and you can see how easily Tempo can shift backwards and forwards. The fact that we haven't drawn into secrets here is a little bit vexing, but given that these secrets aren't coming out, I'm going to drop a Kirin Tor Mage, and equally speaking, you can see how Kazan Mystic, if your opponent's not playing secrets, 4-3 is not too bad, but equally for the Kirin Tor Mage, you're not getting the most out of it if you're playing it without a secret in your hand. So I'm going to hold one back. I could have thrown down the Kazan Mystic, but Kirin Tor Mage a little bit closer, and I think we should look to try and get rid of that Orkanai. But of course, all it takes is one Circle of Healing to really mess this up. And a special hello to Overlord and Sparta, and all of you folks joining us live on stream. We stream on twitch.tv/FuckCast. There is the Circle of Healing, there is a lesser heal, and the opponent is controlling the table nicely. So I'm now in a dangerous position where if I start throwing big minions on the deck, then opponent could be mind controlling. So if my opponent throws a mind control and steals my dot boom, this is exactly where we were looking for counterspell. So we are now at 10. A 10 will steal dot boom. A double thought steal. Copying 2 cards again. A Shadow Madness. Probably going to use that to go into the Boombot and start causing carnage. There we go. Boombot's done. 2 damage, 4 damage, 3 mana left to go, and down goes a secret. But this is where the Concerned Mystic comes into play. So look at this. This is Tempo illustrated. Stealing our own secret back. What's that? Oh, it's a counter spell. That is fabulous. I'm feeling generally a lot happier with our fate in this game. And there you go. That's a perfect example of how Kazan Mystic, albeit in a slightly unusual situation, can flip that tempo up and just give you the difference between, although not victory and defeat in this case, certainly gives a real swing towards us. Holy Fire. Counterspell interrupts it. I've just stolen it off my opponent.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to apologise for that. In comes the heal, 2 mana left to go. Well played. Very, very well played. So there we go. Priest, I think, was struggling for draw there. We saw some cards that would probably be quite normal in terms of playing a Priest deck. Could have been a control, but we didn't see things like the Dark Cultist. Let's jump into another casual game, see how it goes. So there, even though it was in a casual mode game, we saw some of the basics of tempo and how this deck can broadly play. We managed to get Mana Wyrm out in the early game. We never saw an unstable portal. We had the Mad Scientist, and we made sure that we had the table under control until that mid-game phase. When we got to the mid-game, we then started going a little bit behind. The Wild Pyromancers and the plays there were causing us a few problems, but we got Flame Strike back, we grabbed control of the table back, and then we managed to use one of our key ways to try and steal tempo back by stealing that secret back. And then the counter spell also doing a great thing too. Okay, so we're playing a Druid. Druids could be ramping, they could be trying to get lots of nasty stuff. I'm going to go for a full-on mulligan against Druid. I think that we just want to go for our early game spells again. Unstable Portal, Mad Scientist, Mana Wyrm, all of these would be very, very good. I don't necessarily even mind a counter spell. We might be able to draw into a Kirin Tor Mage. Remember the name of the card. And there's a very strong play if you're playing Kirin Tor Mage and secrets. If you go second and you have Kirin Tor Mage and a secret and a coin, I love coining into a Kirin Tor Mage with a secret on turn 2. If it's the right kind of secret, then you're going to be having some great fun. Counter spell, I don't mind having a counter spell up. Would we coin into one? There's a reasonable argument for saying yes, because Power of the Wild, okay, but a lot of ramp druids would start using Innovate, Wild Growth. Cancelling one of those out is a very, very nice play indeed. Here, Frostbolt in action. I'm just going to zap that. I don't need to do anything because I've managed to use my Mana Wyrm to grab control. And that then means that we can perhaps look at coining into a Shredder, or we can save to coin into that Drake.
Mind if I roll
Down goes a loot holder. I'm not entirely sure what my opponent's playing at this point in time, but we'll see. A counter spell could negate any big druid spells that are coming up. I think that let's get ourselves into a nice position. I'm going to trade this away. So at the moment we've got table control, but remember that druids very quickly can ramp up. They can innovate for 2 mana, gain 2 mana for this turn, only for 0 mana of course. Wild growth, they can move their mana crystals further forward very, very quickly. Down goes a Violet Teacher. Maybe we're playing a token druid. Innovate, there we go. And of course, triggering the Violet Teacher and making sure that they can start summoning away. So little Violet Apprentices. And those tokens, of course, a druid has Savage Rule. Give all characters +2 attack this go. So beware the 1/1 minion. It can become a lot more strong and nasty in the hands of a druid, or indeed anything that can buff in that kind of fashion. Righty, Fireball make quick work of our Violet Teacher. I think that's a nice easy play that I'm going to go for, and I'm going to trade that off the table. We are going for some more solid control. Turn 5 is your Drake is a nice play. Counter spell, there are spells that our opponent could throw down, and this is an ideal trade. They've gone for the tempo as well. Now I can play into my own Azure Drake. I can have some fun with Unstable Portal, and Azure Drake would generally be the play of choice here, so I'm going to go for the Drake. In comes the Mad Scientists, and then of course the lovely thing about the Piloted Shredder, hey, I get a little point-sized summoner. The first minion I play each turn costs 1 less. Brilliant, and that means that I can actually bring Boom into play next turn. But I've just been Starfired. Not a typical druid deck. I'm not entirely sure what this deck is playing for, but we'll see how we go. I'm going to bring in Loteb. It gives me Spell Denial for 1 turn. Now I could go for a Mad Scientist. I'm going to go for an Unstable Portal. And I just look at that for an Unstable Portal. That is why Unstable Portal can be so amazing. Trogzor the Earthanator. Whenever your opponent casts a spell, summon a Burly Rockjaw Trog. This is being used by a bunch of people instead of 7 attack or higher minions, and the reason why is that your opponent just doesn't want to play spells. In comes our Polymorph, exactly what it's there for, and we're going to push forward. So a bit of unusual deck our druid friend is playing here. It's not one of the usual ones you'd run into on the ladder. I think Faceless Manipulate, strong card in itself, mirroring the Trogzor, okay, and then we're going to see a Mark of the Wilds. We're going to see a Taunt and 2/2, and that produces a little tank, an 8/8 tank into an Innovate, which is going to summon me another Trogzor. Wow! And of course is also buffing these Trogzors. Maybe played a little bit too hard into me there, I think. Okay, well I can happily sacrifice Trogzor. Trogzor has done some sterling work. There's no way I can actually get rid of that really easily. Oh, I could keep Trogzor. Let's keep Trogzor going. First things first, I'm going to throw down an Arcane. You see, even I forgot there, which was not so good. Right, I'm going to stop being the silly. I did something silly there. Let's clear the table, get everything out of the way, and I'm going to start throwing these down. So you can see how easy it is to forget your opponent's Trogzor the Earthanator. I did exactly what I was castigating our opponent for doing, so self-telling off there. There goes my Norn. When it dies, it goes back in your deck. Really awesome cycling. Wrath for control. And you can just see how nasty the whole Trogzor thing can be. Trogzor finally dies, but I've had 3 of those. Very well played. Okay, so we'll try one more game, just see what we can do. And let's see if we get anything different. We will, in a separate episode, come back and do this on a ladder. As you can see, I'm on a win streak, and if I win my next game, then I'm going to fly 3 stars into rank 5. So going for Legend this season, just preserving my little ladder status for what it is worth. Righty then. So if you're on stream, don't go away. When we finish this, we're going to be taking a look at a control, a very interesting control mage. Okay, we're playing Hunter this time. Let's assume it's aggro. This is a good thing to do. I don't mind the Sorcerer's Apprentice, although I would probably prefer Mad Scientist, but worst come to worst, it's 2 attack, it's 2 mana, 3 attack, 2 health. So if I'm playing a full-on aggro hunter, I need early game minions to make those trades. Alrighty then, so turn 1, I could coin into something here. A Mirror Entity would be pretty tasty as well. I'm going to tap on the table for the time being. Coining into a Sorcerer's Apprentice, a very aggressive start. Bloodfin Raptor, that card not used in too many hunters at the moment, may indicate to me that we're just playing someone perhaps a little bit on the new side, but nothing wrong with that. So, down that goes. I'm going to coin in, and then that gives me the removal. We managed to grab tempo. 3 mana Fireball, but really a 2 mana Mirror Entity is a very nice play next turn. Hopefully we'll grab something rather useful. Note with Mirror Entity, it's when your opponent plays a minion. So Animal Companion, a hunter has just played here, would not trigger Mirror Entity. Important to know. And in the absence of anything else, turn 3, Mirror Entity goes down. Turn 4, we'll grab anything our opponent plays, and we've got Loatheb for Spell Denial, we've got Azure Drake to draw. 2 Fireballs, lots of control. Oasis Snapdraw, an interesting card. We may well see a Houndmaster played after that. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Snapdraw. Best when it gets turned into a tank. I forgot it was only turn 4. How unusual. Okay. I don't have any particular problem of controlling that at this point in time. If it gets turned into a tank, we have to get rid of it anyway, so that's a very aggressive play on top of that. There's no way, of course, we're going to recycle our Fireballs. Here comes a steady 3 mana, nothing happening for the 3 mana. Okay, so Kirin Tor again, like our other game, we're just struggling a little bit with drawing the secrets. So we do only... well, we've got 4 secrets in this deck. It's quite a reasonable amount of secrets that we're playing. So... down goes a Savannah Highmane, always very, very nasty. And one of those cards that can very rapidly nick tempo. That is a fine target for a polymorph. Absolutely fine. Happy to get that removed. Because if you attack that and it dies, then it summons, of course, those 2/2 hyenas. So those hyenas are very, very nasty indeed. So that is a great 3-for-1. It's not even a 2-for-1 like the Piloted Shredder. Moldy Shot.
Well played.
That's a very nice, almost piece of removal, softening things up. Loatheb is going to go down. He's done some good work, but it is time for him to go to the big Loatheb place and start. Oh, a second. Okay, well, we do actually have an alternative option here. I'm going to throw that in. Remember, because we had an Azure Drake, we've got spell damage +1. Frostbolt does 4 instead of 3. So actually, as opposed to sacrificing my big attacking 5 attack minion, I managed to keep it alive. Ironbeak removes my spell damage, a sensible silence, and then we go the Houndmaster as we anticipated, along with a secret. Okay, so playing around Hunter Secrets. The first thing I do is I'm going to have to attack the tank anyway, so it's a good chance to see if it is a freezing trap. It's not a freezing trap, so that is probably, and because I've attacked the minion, it's also not a snake trap. I've not played a minion, so I don't know what else it could be, but it's fair enough for me to remove this. I'm imagining that it's probably going to be an explosive, so what I'm just going to do is get the table clear. If it was an explosive trap, my Loatheb would die anyway, so that's why I'm sacrificing that to get the table under control. Okay, because none of those are triggered, it has to be a snipe, and because I've attacked, it's not a misdirection, so we know that that's a snipe. Whatever minion I play is going to have 4 damage done to it. Yes, okay. So we've solidified the situation. We knew it was going to be a snipe, but really there's no point playing a Kirin Tor Mage for it to die, and we set up a lethal next turn. Scavenging Hyena goes down 2 Scavenging Hyenas. Any sacrificed beasts, of course, make those 2/1. Those are very, very nasty if you can line them up, for example, behind an Unleash the Hounds. Lots of little beasts that you can sacrifice. So, I'll give a well played to our hunter friend here. Possibly a new player, making a new deck. So we will not judge or criticise, and we wouldn't judge or criticise anyway. This is casual mode. You can practice to your heart's content, and it's all good fun, as we're doing here. So thank you so much for tuning in. I know that's a pretty basic illustration of a little bit of how this deck can work, a little bit of how the tempo works, and how you can play card by card by card. We will come back and play this on ladder on another occasion, so we will link back to that, and when we do that we'll link in this video to where you can see those ladder games sit in action in the wild a little bit more. But thanks very much for tuning in. You can come and join us in future on twitch.tv/Failcraftcast. Take a look in the column on the left. We are live Monday through Friday, the times on the bottom left, and we will always tweet on @Failcraftcast on Twitter when we're going to go live. Do check out, of course, youtube.com/Failcraftcast if you're watching on YouTube. Hi. But you can find loads of old decks, or recent decks, or decks beyond the history of Hearthstone that we've taken a look at. We do 2-minute deck guides, more in-depth deck introductions like this one you've just watched, and also a bunch of pick your own arenas, Hearthstone fun, Heroes of the Storm, loads of other games and stuff too. Primarily Blizzard games and PC games, primarily Hearthstone, but do go check it out. So thanks very much for tuning in. I've been Hammy, this is Failcraftcasts. If you're live on stream, don't go away, we're going to take a look at a control deck now. And if you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe or comment, and above all, let us know what we can do to improve this for you. Thanks for tuning in, hopefully see you soon. Take it easy.